to welcome upon stage Ms. Geeta Pillai, Chief General Manager, Transport and Airport, City and Industrial Development Corporation, Maharashtra. To tell you a little bit about ma'am, she is the Chief General Manager, Transport and Airport at CIDCO. Ma'am, please join us on stage. She possesses a wealth of knowledge and expertise in planning and developing urban transportation projects with a master's degree in transport planning from the renowned School of Planning and Architecture in New Delhi. She has dedicated 25 years to shaping sustainable urban transportation system. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, and over to you. Check.
Thank you, Mumbai First, for this wonderful opportunity. It's been a pleasure it's been a pleasure listening to all these the exchanges right from the morning. We have debated on how the climate change is real and it is happening today, and what we can as planners do to build in resilient infrastructure. And that is one tug of war between, like, in all the, what is happening in all the urban planners' minds who are practicing in this city, all the coastal cities especially, Mumbai, Cochin, Vizag, Chennai, all the major cities of India which are actually facing this the impacts of climate change. So why we need this sustainable development? We are on one side we are forced to retain the status of Mumbai as a financial capital of the country, and we planners have a responsibility to retain that position, and we are striving towards building infrastructure for that particular aim. At the same time, we are facing climatic challenges, and so in short, we are striving for a balance on how to achieve this objective without actually degrading the environment or disturbing the environment, and achieving a balance as well as building resilient infrastructure. So in this, since there are many non-Mumbaiites here, I would like to introduce a little bit about Navi Mumbai. Navi Mumbai is a part of Mumbai Metropolitan region, and it is practically a new city which was developed right from scratch around 50 years back, from 1970 in fact. So here if you see this city is right across the creek from this Mumbai, and it is 344 square kilometers in area. And now if you see it, with the Mumbai, the Mumbai Trans-Harbour link coming up, Navi Mumbai is going to be one of the most important sub-regions of MMR region. So when this city was conceived, it was just an area of just low-lying lands as well as hilly regions. And at that time, it was a very, though this climate change and sponge city concept and all was not very much discussed at those times, the city planners of Navi Mumbai took a very important decision to create Navi Mumbai. The base of planning of Navi Mumbai, or the design of the entire city of Navi Mumbai, was based on the Dutch method of reclamation. So this was the Navi Mumbai has a particular geography, the unique geography. It has hills on the one side, and then we have coastal region on the other, and the developable area falls between these hill ranges as well as and the creek. So there is always during the high tide, there is a high probability of risk if it is coupled with the high levels of rainfall as well as high tide. So this particular process. This was analyzed, the conventional method of reclamation, or should we go for this dash method of reclamation, where we are where there's a faster development at a, okay, maybe we kept the development levels at a lower level, and by creating the bunds all along the coast and holding ponds, and this is how it looks. So if you see, there are hills, the runoff from the hills and the hinterland, we have built diversion channels, and the township is built in that particular developable area. And we have holding ponds with non-returnable valve, which collects the water during high rainfall. And so, in short, and it is discharged into the sea during the low tide. So this is how the system has been developed. So this has actually served the city for the last 50 years, except for the the July 26th event. We have never had a flood, the flooding incident, or any kind of incidents what old Mumbai has been facing. So, but however, there have been issues in this, like the brakes, bunds being broken by illegally, or such things. We are facing certain problems. Otherwise, this system has been functioning quite well. So, but however, now comes the development of Navi Mumbai International Airport, where we had to go. This again is a kind of a tug of war between how the development should be, or whether we should develop such an airport in an environmentally vulnerable area. But at the same time, we have to, as Mumbai, the existing Mumbai airport was facing a lot of capacity constraint. We had no other option but to go for a second airport for the MMR, which is very much important for the growth of the city for the next 50 years or 100 years or whatever. So in this case, CIDCO went for it deviated. The Navi Mumbai airport is supposed to be a 90 million or 100 million capacity airport, which is going to be very, very economically, it is going to contribute a lot to the economic growth of the entire region as such, as well as maybe even the state. It is going to be a major the gateway airport for the Mumbai city. So in this case, we deviated. So if you can see here, the Mumbai Trans-Harbour link comes and lands very near to the Navi Mumbai airport. So the moment the Mumbai Trans-Harbour link is functional, both the physical distance between the Mumbai main city and Navi Mumbai becomes kind of negligible. And then suddenly the growth of Navi Mumbai is going to actually start at that point. So here in this case, CIDCO took a very different, it deviated from its original. So I think the chair is obstructing it. Yeah, it's here. It lands at Shivaji Nagar in Ulve, and from there, CIDCO is making a Palm Beach Mark kind of road, the Ulve Coastal Road, which will have an elevated link which directly lands into the airport. So it will, ultimately when the Sivri, the connector is made, the Varli Shivri connector. So once somebody gets onto the Bandra Varli sea link, then you don't have to come down at all. You directly land into the Navi Mumbai airport. So that is the ultimate planning, what MMRDA is doing, and which will ultimately benefit the airport, or rather the airport will become accessible to the entire MMR. So CIDCO deviated from the earlier concept for this particular project. So we roped in the Central Water, CWPRS, the Central Water and Power Research Station, who are the main experts in modeling the hydraulic and concepts. And I think you cannot see this. So I'm not explaining the full thing. Because we had CWPRS do the 2D and 1D and 2D models for the entire catchment area of the airport. And then they did extensive data collection, the hydraulic data, the topographical data, the hydrological data. They considered the rain gauge, the measurements, and in the Colaba, the Colaba and Santa Cruz has got 100-year, or rather 50-year or 100-year data available with them. And the 26th July data was considered, and also for the 50 to 100-year return was considered, and the model calibration was done for tidal data, and validation was done for the 26th July the rainfall data. And then different scenarios were considered with the tidal rise, all happening, the 100-year return, the rains happening, storm surge, 6-month hour storm, everything happening at the same time, as a like different scenarios were built, and then they arrived at the factors, different factors were considered, and tsunami, the safe, based on all this, the safe grade elevation was finalized for the airport. So, it was like fixed as 5.5 HFL, and then 2.5 freeboard was considered. So finally, the airport level was fixed as 8 meter. So in this 2.5 freeboard, all the factors were considered. For the discharge, for the seawater rise, the probability of tidal rise, everything, all the factors considered around 0.7 was added to this 1.8. That is how we arrived at the 8 meter level for the airport, minimum level. And accordingly, the entire, this is how the water levels observed, they finalized, and then they gave a kind of recommendation for the preparation of the master drainage plan for the entire area. In fact, morning Mr. Dheeraj Mehta was mentioning about the diversion of the Ulve River. But however, if you really see, in this entire system, Ulve River was a very seasonal rainfall runoff, basically. It is not a major river. The major rivers are the Gadi River, which flows above the airport, that was left undisturbed. So only the Ulve River, which is a very small water runoff, was diverted below the airport. And that too, it was diverted through a channel which was designed based on the design of the CWPRS. I think the time is up. So now, we did all this, other protection measures, like planting mangroves around as a buffer. Then now the Adanis, which are our concessionaire, they are also now very actively looking into the how to build resilience for the future, how they are going to build resilience for the climate changes. So here they are basically doing three-pronged approach. That is the regeneration of native habitat, green energy. So that green energy, they are going to, in our Navi Mumbai airport, it's for the first time that a new airport, the fuel farm itself has a component for the sustainable aviation fuel. So around 10,000 kiloliters of sustainable aviation fuel they're expecting. They are already in talks with the airlines. In fact, if you recently are aware, Indigo and Vistara have already tested with SAF in India, and they are going in a big way. Even they are going to use it in wide-bodied commercial aircrafts very soon. So once NMIA is operational, we'll have sustainable aviation fuel, which is going to be a major future, that's one of IATA's strategy towards achieving net zero. They expect that around 65% of aviation fuel, that sustainable aviation fuel can contribute to 65% of achieving this goal of net zero by 2050. So similarly, we have other plans like usage of public transport, the EV charging, EV electrical vehicles and all that for the airport. And these are basically how they are planning to achieve this. And so as a way forward, today, if the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which is being launched by our Honorable Prime Minister, they did a survey of around 111 airports, which all ultimately they got a response from everyone that this climate change, the effects of climate change is going to create extreme situations in most of the airports. which might disrupt the flight schedules and ultimately lead to economic loss. So that is why we have to, the built-in climate resilience has to be built in into all the airports through various measures, and that too, it has to start slowly and continuously. So vulnerability assessment, periodic vulnerability assessment and risk assessment should be carried out. It has to become an integral part of all airports. And today in India, we are becoming the one of the most largest domestic aviation markets in the world. Number 3, in fact. So, and we have many, many airports coming up in this last few years, major airports, minor airports. So as a conclusion, or rather morning also, many speakers express this thing, that a very enabling rather than restrictive regulatory framework or the guidelines have to be created for this particular aviation sector. Like in Cochin, they had major issues when, and like now what we are doing is reactive planning. Like in Cochin, during the Kerala's famous monsoons, it was like completely flooded the airport. Then the airport operator had to create the complete drainage cleaning and exercise they had to do, and they had to create new channels all along the airport. So similarly, like without that happening, waiting for that to happen, I think the policy makers and the government and all the stakeholders and the multilateral agencies together, we should form a kind of a framework which would enable and work with the airport operators to make airports more resilient to climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pillai. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to welcome on stage our next speaker for the panel discussion, Dr. Frederick Hutoff, Water Resource Management Disaster Risk Reduction Expert. Let's welcome sir on stage with a round of applause. He's a dedicated part-time assistant professor in the esteemed group Marine and Fluvial Systems, where he passionately explores the physical processes shaping river systems. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Hello. First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Beautiful event, very nice food. Yes, so my name is Frederick Hutoff. I work for a Dutch engineering firm called HKV at the University of Twente. It was already mentioned. And well, the title of my talk is Lessons from Flood Risk Management in the Netherlands. And just before I start, I just want to explain this title because it should be taken really in the broadest sense. We really see in the Netherlands flood risk as a path of learning. So this is also lessons for us. And well, it has been mentioned before, in the Netherlands, flood risk management really is centuries old, but at the same time, it's not just a story of successes. We have actually learned the hard way. And here's an example from, well, the most devastating flood in recent times. So this is from 1953, which has been the impetus really for large works all through the Netherlands to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. But this hasn't been the end of floods. Just as recent as 2 years ago, we still had floods in the Netherlands, in the southern part, which was not caused by the sea as this one, but yeah, there were river floods, heavy rains, and well, luckily no casualties happened, but quite a lot of economic damage. So we are still learning, and not only from our own, let's say, mistakes or unexpected events, but also by looking at other places around the world and gaining experience from that. Okay. Do I skip myself? Yeah. Which one do I push? Oh yeah, okay. Well, this map pretty much has been shown already before earlier today. Just once more, here you see the Netherlands, and in blue, that's actually not the area that's all below sea level, but that's the area that's prone to floods. And to the left side of that dotted line, that could be floods from the sea. From the right side, it's mostly then due to rivers. But it's obvious, yeah, the Netherlands is facing a real challenge here. And we also realize that this cannot be solved just with one approach. Yeah, so already within the Netherlands, we realize that we need various approaches, various solutions that work together and really tailor it all to make it work for a country as a whole. And that, of course, also counts for other places around the world. Okay, so I'm going to go on. And then to give an overview of the different approaches that we've been used in the Netherlands, it's also been mentioned before. So we have flood defense structures, so storm surge barriers, movable structures on the left. All those dots you see there are actually movable structures. In the middle, you see a system of levees, of dikes that have been constructed to protect different areas of the country with different levels of protection. In color, in red, you see the highest protection level, and in green, the lower protection level. Cost-benefit analysis is behind it, protecting the areas that are most valuable or have most economic assets. And on the right, another strategy that was started about 20 years ago, no, less than that, 12, I believe, and has been completed by now, the Room for the River project, to also look at options to create space for the river and not only protect against it. And that's not all. There's more approaches: spatial planning within those dike rings, resilient infrastructure, emergency planning, early warning systems have been mentioned before. So it's really a combination of all those tools, of all those solutions, basically, to make the system work, and still learning from unexpected events. Now, and here's one very important point that I want to make, because a lot has been said today already about the need for collaboration, working together, taking a holistic approach. So it's great to hear that. There's a willingness to work together, obviously here also, and a need to work together. But it's not only about recognizing the problems together, but also working together on solutions. Yeah, and this is where it becomes difficult. So what we have done in the Netherlands, we built, let's say, decision support systems that simplify some of the processes, but really get out the key processes and the key aspects and the key problems, also from different perspectives, and start designing solutions together. And unfortunately, I don't have time to give you some examples here today. We will actually be doing a workshop tomorrow, which is a bit more technical. If anyone is interested, I can give you some information about it. But so we have a planning kit for the Room for the River, and also for, let's say, the morphological effects that can occur along the coast or in a river, that we can use to engage decision makers and all kinds of stakeholders to be part of designing solutions. And I think that is an important next step that needs to be done to really work and start talking about solutions. Okay, and then just highlighting a few particular solutions that have been designed in the Netherlands. So we actually have 5 storm surge barriers, 3 pictures here to give examples. And well, I'm going to borrow some words that have been said earlier today. It also accounts for storm surge barriers. If you've seen one storm surge barrier, you've seen one storm surge barrier. They're all unique. And this picture has been shown a couple of times before, but we also have another storm surge barrier, which is based on one inflatable tube. And that works well there, but for other locations, obviously, that doesn't work anymore. I'm going to try to keep it really short. I know that there's a lot of interest for the Maaslandkering, let's say our most impressive storm surge barrier that we have in the Netherlands. Definitely the most recent one, was constructed in the 90s. And just to give you a bit of sense of scale, both of these arms are about 300 meters long. Yeah, so that's basically the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, so just imagine, and then taking Eiffel Tower by its tip and moving it around through the river, and then 2 of them. So it's really quite impressive. That's me standing right next to it. So when you're standing next to it, you can't really even appreciate the size of it. You really have to see it from above to appreciate it. Yeah, some details. I'd be happy to explain you more about it if you're interested, but I think I'm going to just leave it here, also considering time. And the last slide, it's just me and my daughters next to the storm surge barrier. And well, I think it's important to make these kind of structures also for the future, for our children, so that we don't need to jump to keep our feet dry. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uthoff. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to welcome on stage Additional Chief Town Planner, Government of Gujarat, Mr. Harpal Dave. Can we have Mr. Dave on stage, please? He is a dedicated professional, currently serving as the Assistant Town and Country Planner in the prestigious TCPO, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. His expertise lies in urban planning and development, and he has played a crucial role in several significant initiatives. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. So there has been a recent role change in my work profile. Earlier, I was working with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, as per the introduction. And just 2 months back, I have moved to the government of Gujarat. I'm working as additional chief town planner in the state as of now. And I'll be making a presentation on how to build resilience in the city by using urban planning as a solution. So today, since the morning, we have been seeing projects which are of high investment, of high scale, and they are of course useful in their own way. But can we plan our cities in a way that they become resilient by design? And what I think a couple of speakers touched upon, nature-based solution. So is it possible to plan our cities in that way, that nature helps us in building resilience? There are several benefits. First, it's not too expensive. Because otherwise, if you look at the budgets that our cities have, many of the projects that we are seeing as of now, from where do we get the money to implement these projects, it would be a question. Nature-based solutions are comparatively cheaper. Secondly, they also help us in retaining the present biodiversity of whichever natural region the city belongs. And it also helps us in a variety of ways by helping us deliver ecosystem services. So climate change is a given. We have been listing down a number of impact that climate change will be having. So, high intensity rainfall, cyclones, flooding, and one of them is also heat wave. So can we, by using nature-based solution, try and mitigate two problems? One is flooding, second is the heat wave problem. I'll be very brief. I'll be touching only a few examples. In India, when we speak of urban planning, city planning, there are 4 levels of planning at which interventions are made. One is the regional level, what MMRDA is doing. It's a regional level planning authority. Not many states are fortunate to have such planning authorities, but first level of planning is at the regional level. Second level of planning is at the city level. What normally we make master plans or development plan. The nomenclature changes with the state based upon the legal provisions. Second planning is at the city level. Third is sometimes at zonal level. We have within city, we have zonal plans. The fourth level of planning is micro level planning. What some states are doing called TP scheme. I think Maharashtra is doing in Pune, and some other cities are doing TP scheme. Gujarat is also doing TP scheme since quite some time. It is actually a common legacy of the erstwhile Bombay state. So both the state Gujarat and Maharashtra have I think more than 100 years old legacy of TP scheme, but we are doing it with different intensity. So the fourth level of planning is at the micro level, regional level, city level, zonal level, and micro level. In TP scheme, what normally we do, this is the classic, just an example of, just an understanding of what TP scheme is. It is also known as land readjustment. It's a generic name. Some people call it land readjustment, some call it TP scheme, some call it land pooling. Some states call it TOUT development scheme, but the generic name is land readjustment. So essentially what we are doing is when we do a TP scheme, we are trying to regularize the irregular plots within the rural area when the city is developing, when the city is growing towards the rural fringe. What we try to do is we try and reconstitute the agricultural fields, make rectangular plots out of them, lay out the infrastructure for roads, gardens, and other services, and then we put some reserved land for sale. So generally, the authorities sell the land in the market and generate some revenue out of the land, and out of which the authority or the urban local body develops the infrastructure within the TP scheme area so that it becomes self-financing. The authority or the ULB does not have to spend money from its own pocket to develop the infrastructure. In the process, we also reserve some land for parks and garden, as we can see. Within this TP scheme, Normally here what we are doing, I'm not sure if this is very readable. Oh, it can be seen, okay. This is an example of a TP scheme or a land readjustment project from Japan. In India, normally when we do a micro level planning, our road hierarchy does not follow the natural contours of any place. The road hierarchy does follow a given engineering standard, arterial road, sub-arterial road, and we know it. But these roads are not laid according to the contours, and many a time these roads hinder the flow of natural water. In case of Japan, they normally use contour-based planning, and this is where flood is prevented at the level of planning itself. You are planning a city which does not promote water accumulation, but it promotes water discharge in a very planned way. So by this, and this is a micro level plan. The TP scheme or the land readjustment area is normally about 100 hectares in size. It may vary from case to case. It may be as small as 20 hectares. It may be as big as 1200 hectares, which is 12 square kilometers. But normally the average size is 150 hectares. And that's the right level of area in which you can intervene and make contour-based planning. This essentially is for a greenfield area. Here, when they make the contour-based planning, they also reserve land, not only for park or not only for commercial sale, they also reserve land for accumulation of water. So each TP scheme has a flood control reservoir within the area. So the lowermost point in the given area for planning is identified. If there is an existing water body or a lake or something, it is reserved, it is retained. Sometimes it is deepened. These are Google images I took today morning and last evening. This is actually a Google image from a city in Japan. This is a flood control reservoir. This is another flood control reservoir. We can see surrounding the flood control reservoir, the roads are based on the contour geometry of the existing terrain. The terrain is not re-engineered too much. Again, another example, greenfield area. This is an engineered reservoir where there was no reservoir actually, but a lower point in the site was identified. The area has been excavated and a reservoir has been created. Besides the reservoir, there is a urban park, urban forest, which is created for promoting biodiversity within the city. We can see in the slides, if the red circles are visible, in the city there are 4 to 5 flood control reservoirs that we can see. These are on the surface. In the morning, we had examples being discussed about the subterranean, the water accumulation facilities, but this is on the surface. Again, an example of an engineered. Here we have sports facilities nearby the flood control reservoir. So there is a water body nearby, then you have the sports facility, it's a complementary use. So that's the part of as far as the TP scheme is used for promoting, for creating of flood control reservoirs. And they may be small in size, but when we look at the macro effect at the level of city, they act like sponges. What the gentleman from NDMA was mentioning, the creation of sponge cities. The concept is when it rains, the reservoir should absorb the rainwater and gradually release it when it is required. So there is rainwater, the groundwater recharge is being done by this. Even the nearby areas can draw water out of these flood control reservoirs. This is another example of a river in Kyoto. People who have been to Kyoto, they would have invariably been to this. It's a very picturesque and a very beautiful area to be in. Riverfront development in Kyoto. Upfront, it looks a very simple project of riverfront development. There is nothing extraordinary about it. But this is fundamentally different in its approach towards riverfront development. What essentially they have tried to do is, they have retained the natural channel of the Kyoto River. Nearby, on the edges, terracing has been done by the use of stone masonry. There is no concrete used. If at all, it is very minimal. So the stone pitchwork has been done. As much as possible, the natural drainage channel has been retained. The terraces, whenever the river swells with water when it rains heavily and the water swells, the terraces are submerged. And when the water recedes, the terraces are again available for use. So the edges of the river have been designed for recreational use, for cycling, for jogging. We can see a large number of the edges may not look very manicured. They look a bit unkept at times, or they are not being, it appears that nobody is taking care, but that is actually the reason. The edges have been allowed for the natural flora and fauna to flourish as if it would have flourished without human intervention. So we can see there is a lot, if one walks by, we can see a lot of amphibian life, we can see birds, we can see a variety of insects, and people have actually access to the river when the water level is low. In cases where we are developing riverfronts in India, the access of human to the river is somehow lost. If the water quality is good enough, if the design is allowing human to actually access the river, I think all of us who come from rural background or who have spent some part of their childhood in the rural areas would have very fond memories of accessing rivers. Somehow in the cities we are losing it. And this is possible if we can do our riverfront development by this manner. We can also allow the flood water to pass through the terracing. We can retain the access of human to the river. You can see people, gathering and having a good time. Again, some images of the same river. I only had to mention two things about the floodwater reservoir and about the riverfront development in Kyoto. These are the only two things I would like to mention. And as I said, the budgetary constraints of high intensity projects, they are not something which are suitable to all the cities in the country. And Mumbai first, of course, we are focusing on Mumbai here. Mumbai has deep pockets. The city has money to develop some of the projects. But when we look at the other coastal cities within the country, maybe we are not such, when you compare, I was in a city called Toyama in Japan, and they were doing some projects, and I asked the budget of the local government. And the per capita money that they could spend was much, much higher than what we are doing for Ahmedabad or Gandhinagar. So the kind of investment that are doable in Europe, in the developed part of the world, they are not comparable to that way doing in India. Secondly, the cities that exist today in India, they are existing in locations which were suitable as per the past preferences or as per preferable conditions of the past. In the given scenario, in the event of climate change and flood and the sea level rise, these locations may not be suitable. In future, we may need to rethink, when we think about the regional planning, we may need to rethink whether the same locations are suitable for the next 100 years. If no, then maybe we need to relocate our investment to areas which are more suitable for future. The coastline will be receding, the water will rise. New coastlines will emerge as per the future scenario. Maybe new cities will develop, or the present cities will shift a bit. And those areas may be more suitable for development. This is my last picture in the slide. This is river Danube in Bratislava. I was pleasantly surprised. Even many parts of Europe also do practice retaining of natural vegetation along the river. This is something that we should do. In an informal discussion with some of the experts and the urban planners, when we discuss flood control reservoir, one of the questions or the legitimate criticism which comes across is each land has a cost. Now, when you create a reservoir, what is the value or what is the cost of land that you are using for that purpose? And does it serve that much amount of, is there a cost benefit and positively? So maybe we can look at it the other way. What is the cost of doing and what is the cost of not doing? If we do not do this, we are many a times losing a lot of property, life when it floods. If we do it, maybe there is cost, no denying the fact, there is cost. But it does have, the cost of not doing is far more than the cost of doing. And here I would like to quote one very renowned bureaucrat, Mr. M.N. Buch, retired long back, and He was a member of the first urbanization commission, which was chaired by Mr. Charles Correa. In one of his interviews, which I had happened to read, he had mentioned that each piece of land is not a piece of real estate. There are reasons why we leave open lands. There are reasons why we keep parks, garden, provision for environmental infrastructure. So that we must retain, and then cities will be beautiful and more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. Before we, Pooja invites the final two speakers, I'd like to encourage the audience to have their questions ready. So we'll have a very efficient Q&A at the end of the session. Just as a quick reminder, we've had speakers going over waste management, sea level rise and the management of the Mithi River, airport resilience, flood barriers in the Netherlands, and now, of course, the urban planning presentation in India. So that's a quick recap, and then we move on to the last two.
Thank you, Ms. Krishnan. I would also like to thank Mr. Dave for sharing what is being done in his city. Moving forward, we now have our next speaker who's going to be joining us on stage, India representative for Port of Antwerp, Bruges, Belgium. Please put your hands together for Mr. Daljit Singh Kohli. He has a versatile background spanning various sectors, including food and beverages, healthcare, manufacturing, construction, IT, and renewable energy. He thrives in fostering cross-functional and cross-cultural collaboration. Over to you, sir. Can we please welcome sir on stage with a round of applause?
I think, thank you everyone. Thank you Mumbai first for giving me this opportunity. I know it's going to be too long for you guys to sit in. I won't take much time. I'll try to finish off my presentation as fast as possible, but please bear with me as I have few slides to go through. Port of Antwerp, I think many people will know about it. It's the second largest port in Europe, but not many people may know that we are also now, if you read the name, it's not only Port of Antwerp, it's called Port of Antwerp Bruges, which is where we merged with the Port of Zeebrugge last year, and we now become two locations, one on the coast of Belgium and the other hinterland of Belgium, which is almost 80 kilometers in line. Both the ports have a difference between 100 kilometers, which actually means that the ships tomorrow could call up on any of the ports. Currently they call both the ports, so it's good for us. In terms of the circle that you see, we cater to almost 500 kilometers of customer market in Europe from our port with various modes of transportation. And that is where actually it's really a very prominent location for us. And with UK also now not being a part of it, it actually do a lot of transshipments to UK also. Just to give you an idea of the platform, how it looks like, we have two different platforms, 5 container terminals in the Port of Antwerp and 1 container terminal in the Port of Zeebrugge. We are quite specialized into break bulk, container handling, chemicals. If you look at that slide, it says the amount of turnover that we did last year. I'm sorry, I'll take a bit of this one, I think. So I think if you look at the turnover, total throughput, we did 287 million tons last year. We contribute to almost 4.5% of Belgium's GDP, and that's because of the companies that we have at the port, which are good into distribution, logistics, and warehousing. We are the largest Ro-Ro port in the world. Last year, Zeebrugge platform, we did 3.5 million cars, and the total Ro-Ro output would be around 4.2 million. Largest chemical cluster in Europe, and second largest in the world. And we have the big names in the industry called BASF, Total, ExxonMobil, INEOS, all having manufacturing facilities in the port area. And these are not just warehousing or distribution facilities, these are real manufacturing facilities. We almost do 15% of Europe's gas, which is at the Port of Zeebrugge platform. We do a lot of storage, distribution, and production of gas at the platform there. 1,400 companies based in the port area, and these are basically companies which do a lot of value addition, logistics, 3PL, 4PL companies, warehousing companies, approximately 6.2 million square meters of closed warehousing space in the port area. And the most astonishing figure is the one on the top, which says the area that we have. The port area is around 14,300 hectares of land. If you look at in kilometers, it could be around 140 square kilometers. That's the area we look at. Some of the things you don't see below is the jobs that we create is 164,000 jobs in the port area, direct and indirect. So what do we do actually? Like normal ports, we'll be doing cargo operations, but as a port of Antwerp, we are a landlord port. We have big land base, so we give those land on concessions to all these companies that are there. We also have minimal operations that we do. We do not do major operations like crane handling. All these operations are purely privatized. I think the first port in India is JNPT, which is now a 100% landlord port. And we've been looking at that model for quite a number of years. The major operation that we do is of a community builder, which is actually where we foster relationships between the community in the port area as well as global relationships. Now, this is a word I think not many of you would like to hear, VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that's the world we live in. And if you look at the figure, look at the names there, what we have been going through, how it affects our port is very important. Brexit, COVID, US-China trade wars, Russia conflict, and we don't know what's next coming up. So we have to be prepared for that. And as a port, one of the things we look at is ports are critical infrastructure. So we need to be prepared for the next thing that's coming up. Then how do we do that actually? Look at, this is, okay, I'm just taking you through, this is just a run through of what has happened in the last 2-3 years in the industry. You had the China trade wars, then you had oil crash, lockdowns due to COVID, the Chinese economy resuming, but the containers stucking up. You see the Suez Canal thing, that the Evergreen ship getting stuck up in the Suez Canal, and that got a big disruption. Inflation and rising prices right now in Russia, Ukraine, and we don't know what's coming up next, so we're going to be prepared for what it is. And how do we do that? In fact, Port of Antwerp, and not only Port of Antwerp, I think we need to be prepared to either mitigate the risk or, probably it could be either reactive or not proactive. We're going to be prepared for that. And that can only happen by way of collaboration between teams. Port of Antwerp, as such, we've done some initiatives last year and before and during COVID and during all these lockdowns and things that happen. Just to put it on slide, it's these are just few of them. We formed a task force where we could do all the risk assessment and what is happening. So that is regularly done at the port area. If you see that post, we actually created the border inspection post with Federal Agency for Food Safety, Belgium Customs, and the Federal Police all in one line. So if you look at from that perspective, there is a less lag of time. Plus, if you look at from a carbon emission perspective, you don't have to wait too much. So your trucks really move fast. The one below is more of a digital platform, which actually shows a lot of the green lanes that were developed and where do you find the lags that is happening. Again, movement becomes faster, the customers can track at the end, and these are all using the new technologies. And the one here you don't see, it's the digitization and the innovation that is coming up in the port area. And how do we actually see, because when you talk about sustainability, I think you also need to take that you got to monitor things with the help of your digital aspects. And this will only happen when you actually are prepared with all the things. I'll just show you a video which shows how, as a port, we are building up that infrastructure, not only in terms of the physical infrastructure, but in terms of the digital infrastructure. We have a private 5G network that we are building up in the port area. We have the customs, which is totally digitized, and a real-time 3D mapping of the port, which actually shows how we can monitor each and every activity that is happening at the port, including the water levels, including the air quality, if there is any discharge that has happened due to ships coming in, how many ships come in, and we do that by way of cameras, drones, and a lot of other assets that we put on the site.
Good morning and welcome back. General status report. Today is an overall sunny day, with a light breeze from the northwest. Port traffic is busy as usual at this time of day, with 221 barges and 180 seagoing vessels in port. We're expecting 95 new arrivals and 73 departures today. Road mobility is within efficiency norms. There are 2 INOS quality alerts and 1 ongoing event. Would you like to investigate? At 8:51, INOS 22 detected possible hazardous compounds. Analyzing. According to historic wind data and ship tracking, a possible cause might be the chemical tanker My Fair Lady. Would you like to collect an air sample? Please select available UAV. Calculating flight trajectory. ETA in 1 minute 30 seconds. Initiate. Confirmed. I am Apika. Welcome to the port of the future.
So that's a port community system platform, an application that we use, and we could use it for various ordering of port services, including inland navigation services, towing services. That could be done on this platform again. But just coming to the next slide. VUCA world is not going away. We will have disruptions in future, and I think the best part is to actually collaborate in a global scenario of different ports, and how do we actually ensure that we can network and cooperate together for avoiding or maybe handling the next crisis better. And how do we do that? In fact, we've been doing that with various other ports in the country. We're quite open to sharing information. If you look at the middle part of it, which is operational, industry, and logistics, we offer a lot of knowledge in terms of either technology, could be environmental services, could be training, could be port management, could be port analysis, economic growth, marketing, all these services, we actually offer quite a lot of knowledge. Some of the references, and this is one of our daughter companies, Port of Antwerp Bruges International, which does consulting, managing, and investment, also training, and I'll come back to the training aspect of what we've been doing in India. Some of the ports that we have investments in is the Port of Dukum and Port of Aku. We have an investment in the port, and we also manage the operations there. In India, if you look below, we've done some projects with the Hazira port, the Haldia port, and recently we just completed a feasibility study with IIT Chennai for the Calcutta port for night navigation into it. We do have a training center where we do a lot of trainings, and in India we have a training center in joint collaboration with the JNPT port, and if you see the image below, that's the training center where we conduct trainings all across for various port professionals. It could be on port management, could be on dangerous goods, could be on port sustainability. In fact, in June, I think from the 19th of June, we're doing a training on port environmental management and sustainability at the port. And this is quite open to port professionals who want to adopt. This is a residential course, and we have speakers and trainers come in from Antwerp to actually get that training. It's not only the customer, we also do customized training depending upon what the requirements are. Wherever there is a project that is handling, for example, the Port of Dukum and the Port of Aku, we actually have people traveling to the Port of Antwerp, stay there for a month, understand the various aspects of it. In fact, for Calcutta Port Trust, we've had a batch of people who have gone for training and have come back. So we expect to do that again and again with different projects that we work on. We're all talking about climate change, and this is where I think the next future of collaboration is going to come from. We look at all these sustainable development goals, but the key ones, if you look at it, is the number 13, which is climate change, and the one below, which is partnerships. And we believe that we cannot do everything ourselves. So we're going to have collaborations with different ports in different areas. And just my last slide of what we've been doing at the port right now. And as a port, you may say we are a landlord port, but we do various aspects of it. For example, in energy, we have a big wind turbine base at the port. We have 130 wind turbines in the port area, and we have capacity to expand more, so we'll have more renewable energy in future. We use the carbon dioxide, and this is very important because my initial slide said that we are a big chemical cluster. So you could imagine the amount of emissions that we do. A figure, if I put you across, will be huge. It's 16 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions in the port area just last year. And that includes the emissions from the ships coming into the port, the emissions from the chemical cluster. And how do we actually plan to reduce that? We plan to reduce that by 50% by 2030 and completely become carbon neutral by 2050. We use the carbon dioxide to either capture it by carbon capture mechanism and store it into the underwater sea storages. We also have an area at the port which is a hotspot. It was an old Opel factory, General Motors factory, which is completely flattened out, and now we give it to companies who are only purely into circular economy and not for like another warehousing facility. So this is a commitment to more sustainable future. Onshore power supply, I think someone in the morning did speak about the onshore power supply, and this is a kind of a very initial thing. As I mentioned, it emits a lot of carbon dioxide when the ships use their own electric power. Ports of Antwerp, Hamburg, Rotterdam, all actually have signed a kind of MOU to actually ensure that we get to this 2028. That's the thing where we will be able to have the bigger ships could be given onshore power supply. And these are some of the basic tugboats. We have the first hydrogen-powered tugboat for the port of Antwerp that's been built there. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kohli. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to meet the final member of this panel. Please put your hands together for Advisor Planning, Mumbai Port Trust, Mr. Dilip V. Shekhar. He is an architect and urban planner who comes with over 50 years of experience in various aspects related to architecture and urban planning. He has worked with multiple government and private organizations. He has been instrumental in developing the largest affordable housing project in Mumbai under BUDP. He retired as Chief Architect and Planner of CIDCO. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Being a last speaker, I would like to be as brief as possible. In the entire day, we discussed a lot of technicalities of the climate change. We discussed about a lot of solutions, various issues. So I will just concise my entire presentation on whatever the proposals we have done in the development of the Eastern waterfront. As you may be aware that Mumbai Port has taken up the task of the planning and redevelopment of the entire Eastern waterfront, where around 811 hectares of the land belongs to the Mumbai Port itself. So we prepared the entire master plan. We are also appointed as a special planning authority. And we prepared the entire planning proposal under the MMRDA Act and submitted to the state government for sanction. So how this plan takes care of the climate change and particularly heat waves, etc., that I will just explain it. No problem. Hello. So actually you have seen this map for a number of times today. So I don't want to discuss on that, but I will give just another angle. Being a port, we monitor 24 hours the entire tidal actions, sea level, etc. And we have found that last so many decades, there is no increase in the sea level on the eastern waterfront side. Actually, the Madras IIT also conducted a study some 2-3 years back, and they also came to the same conclusion that there is no increase in the sea level. But I don't want to contest this study also, nor our study also. But there is a need to go into deep exactly what is going to happen in the future, whether there will be really increase in the seawater or not. And for that purpose, we are going to appoint an expert. Actually, the process is already on, and that entire how the entire sea culture will behave in the future, and what are the mitigation measures also required for the sea level rise. So basically in the planning proposal, what we did is that well-designed stormwater drainage systems. Then we have got the entire waterfront development related with the strengthening the waterfront and the development of the promenade, and another dike inside the sea to create the barriers. This is what the proposals we did it, along with the various micro level interventions. So this is the area, actually, this is 253 hectares of area, which is proposed for the development. And in the morning, Mr. Pardeshi sir said that there should be more open space, more open land, and the entire development should be compressed together. The same principle is adopted here. Nearly 75% of the land is open use, which includes garden, which includes roads, and which includes amenities also. And only 25% land is for the development. Our footprint is only 24%. nearly 32% land is under the open space. Now, because of this open space, it will take care of the sudden floods in the area. At the same time, entire waterfront is proposed for the green development. A large central park of about 145 hectares is proposed on the tip of the area. In the entire plans, we also propose retention ponds. In the Central Park itself, there is one retention pond of about 7 hectares, which will be used for the recreation purpose also. Then it will add to the aesthetic value. It will also reduce the peak temperature, and it will also act as a flood risk reduction. This is the landscape plan, and we have got 2 retention ponds. One is the artificial pond in the water area, and one underground or storage below the ground. So this will take care of the sudden flooding in this area. At the same time, we also proposed a 11-kilometer long promenade along the eastern waterfront, which the minimum width will be about 50 meters. And it will also act as a recreational area. And it will also strengthen the waterfront. And it will also act as a buffer between the water edge and the development. We have a MOU with the University of Notre Dame, and every year they take up the project, one project from our area. Last year they took the same area for the planning purpose, and they proposed one artificial dike along the waterfront. This dike can be used for the coastal path along the dike, and can be used for the bike riding, skating, walk along the scenic stage. And this dike integrates climate protection and coastal protection with other green and recreational purpose. So this will also act as another retention part. But this is also one of the solution, one of the way to protect the area. We have this road network. This entire road network is basically east-west, major road network. It will not disturb the entire wind flow. And it will also be suitable for the stormwater drainage system point of view, because everything is going towards seaside. We also proposed the arcade. I think arcade is not new to the Mumbai. Entire Harniman Circle, etc., has got arcadal systems. But in this case, the entire area has been designed on the form-based code, where all the major roads will have the arcades, which will create a shaded environment for the pedestrians. Entire cross sections have been designed accordingly. We are also promoting the green certified buildings in this area. Actually, the public buildings should have mandatory green building, which will reduce the temperature inside as well as outside the area. And we also designed a complete pedestrian pathway and bicycle pathway in the entire area. It passes through the green islands, parks, and also along the road. So this will have the cool pavements, it will have cycle pedestrian green paths, and it will also green pavement, parking pavements. We also propose to have green roof wherever possible so that it will reduce the temperature, and it will also decrease the demand for the air conditioning. Actually, there are some various micro level solutions, but this is one of the solutions in Poland, where they have constructed the bus stops with a plant-based roof, where the rainwater is arrested, 90% of the rainwater is arrested, and it reduces the temperature inside. On infrastructure side, we also designed a complete service management systems. What Sir said in the presentation, that it takes the zero-based aim, which whether we'll achieve or not, but that entire system is already in place, and once the plan is approved, we'll start the implementation. And we also developed this entire sewerage systems, where the entire 100% treated water will be used for the recycling and flushing purpose. So that's all. I think we have already have association with the international players. For example, last year, EU has conducted one workshop on the bankable projects, and we are also in touch with them for the further association. We have already made the MOU with the University of Notre Dame. They are also helping us in the entire planning purpose. We are also in the process of association with the UR, Urban Renaissance from the Japan, and they are also trying to help us in that. I hope that with all the association from all the people, we'll be able to develop the most efficient and functional city in this area. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shankar. And thanks also to the other panelists for focusing on very comprehensive resilience measures for some major infrastructure projects in Mumbai. I think we have space for 2 burning questions.
No,
from the
unfortunately,
audience.
we're not going
Oh,
to be
we
able to
don't?
take a single question. I'm really sorry. I know while a lot of you sitting here have questions, but can we please do them offline? Because we've flooded into the next panel discussion. However, I really... Okay, okay.
Yeah, one
All right.
burning question, please. I think there was a gentleman.
Like
who
Sanjay sir said, it needs to be a burning question.
Yeah,
We
Yeah,
have
there
somebody
was-
with a
yes,
question.
please,
Can we
yeah.
have the mic?
yeah.
My observation is that Miss Pillai, she made a wonderful presentation of what she has done. But at the end, she said that the airport will have a capacity of 90 to 100 million passengers per year. Will that not undo everything we are trying to do? If we have a transatlantic flight in economy class, then we melt 2 square kilometers of Arctic ice. Now, what would 100 million passengers every year do to what we are trying to do? That is my question.
Question related to the capacity of the airport, or is it just a concern? Okay, Madam Ms. Pillai, would you like to respond to that? Yeah, thank you.
Unfortunately, like I had said earlier, due to shortage of time, we're not going to be able to take any more questions. I really request that those of you who need more information to please connect with the speakers offline. Before I let my esteemed panel members leave the stage, I request Ms. Nandini Dias, Governing Board Member, Mumbai First, to please join us back on stage. I request ma'am to kindly present a token of our appreciation to our esteemed panel members who have so sportingly shared their research, expertise, and insight with all of us. I have one more very special announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Our occasion has just been graced by the presence of Honorable Guardian Minister, Government of Maharashtra, Shri Deepak Kesarkarji, requesting everybody to kindly welcome sir with a round of applause. I also request Chairman Mumbai First, Mr. Narendra Nair, to welcome sir with a floral bouquet. I also request Nandini ma'am and the panel members to remain on stage for a group photograph. Once again, thanking our esteemed speakers of this panel discussion. Can we hear it for them, please? Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Thank you, Nandini ma'am, for joining us on stage.